happen. So, but if there's something that you feel you, okay, sorry, Jim. It says too smart. Let's start with you. The question from the gentleman is, did I understand that your system is able to call your riders and tell them a bus is coming in 2 minutes?
Our paratransit system is able to do that, and it's more like 5 minutes. It's within so many miles of the pickup, and we just implemented it. So the only bad thing I got to say about that is, like, agencies that have 30 or 40 rides a day, in the afternoon when we pick up all their clients, they get about 30 or 40 phone calls. So we're working on that, but yes, we can do that.
Can I ask the other providers, is there any type of notification like that you have? And I'm not going to include the automated, people mover, because I don't know, other than we were talking about the nice gentleman's voice that announces, really nice voice. But for the other providers or future providers, are you going to have any, automated also? So I guess it's Michael and Dan. Any way for your paratransit to be notified automatically?
Sure, I'd love to do it.
Okay.
I'd love to do it. It's finding the money and whatever, but absolutely, that's the way to go.
Would it make sense for paratransit services to have one system for dispatch, or does it make more sense to keep them separate and just continue to coordinate?
You want to take over, Al?
The only problem I could say, it does make sense from the public standpoint that we all have the same system, but it doesn't save us any money because the people that sell to you, just license fees, everything else. So in some cases it makes sense, and this it probably wouldn't. But.
Yeah. I mean, it really, and it's two different service areas, and where you really save is where you overlap, and especially with paratransit, the only thing that would help would be some of those transfer trips for ADA. But that's something that we're gonna work on. That has nothing at all to do with cost. That just needs to be done better. Yeah.
So that's just, rather than anything new, it's just coordinating with the systems?
Yeah, see, and the thing is, I'm gonna tell you, the DDOT's ADA service, it's probably on time 60% of the time. And that's horrible. And it's one of the reasons why we're out to bid looking at new paratransit providers. Or the old paratransit providers are, we think are bidding too, but the service quality dramatically has to improve. And we're looking at that happening by as early as August 1st. So that's going to be, we think, a good news story for our ADA customers.
So the bid would go out in August and then?
No, the bid is out now.
Okay.
And we've invited one of the members of our local advisory council, which are, they're a group of people with disabilities primarily, but seniors also. We're asking them to be a non-voting member on our selection committee.
That's certainly good news. That it sounds like very soon some improvements for the paratransit. Ernest, you get the next question. When will the Grand Circus station be open?
We're looking for December 2014, but I'm looking for ways to skim back on that a little earlier. But December is a safe guess.
And that's referencing the elevators for people with disabilities?
That's the entire full station.
Oh, I missed that. Full station?
Full station. We're doing the full station.
Very good.
Let's go to Dan. Got a few questions here. What are the plans to improve the Rosa Park? What are the plans to improve the Rosa Parks Transit Center? And I'm going to ask whoever asked this question, because I don't know, plans to improve is fairly general. If he doesn't answer, or if you'd like to give him more information, I'll bring the mic to you.
I can talk about a number of things that we're doing at Rosa Parks. One of the first things I did, actually, because I look over all the complaints, and I'm getting like the first week, 2 weeks, I'm getting all these complaints about Rosa Parks and concerns about security and this, that, and the other thing. And there were a wide range of complaints. And one thing I learned from Mike Duggan is he used to have 10-minute meetings back at SMART. And so I kind of adopted that, and I could see Marty Moore kind of hiding because he knows how I used to do that. The long and short is I invited everyone that had a piece of Rosa Parks. It was our maintenance department, it was our operations department, it was security, it was, you name it, anyone that had a piece were at this meeting. And I talked about how, you know, there was no real champion for Rosa Parks. I mean, everyone's in charge, but no one's in charge. So no one really took ownership of it. And they all agreed. I mean, you know, there's 6, 7 people, they all agree that that's really what we need to do. And I asked for volunteers to champion the program, one of the 6 or 7. And I volunteered the head of the road supervisor. His name is Ansel Stewart. And Ansel fought it at first. He's a real passionate guy, and I really like him because he cares a lot. And Ansel said, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do it. Because if I do it, I'm going to want to do it right. And I basically said, that's exactly why I want you. And I talked him into it, and within one day, we extended the service at Rosa Parks so that it's open the whole time that DDOT runs service in there. We made a number of improvements in again, it's been a tough winter, but it's been cleaned a lot more. Our security folks are all going to be stationed there. It's, as we have the transit police, they're all going to be part of that. We're looking at doing some technical improvements in there from a technology perspective. We're making some cosmetic improvements, all within the next 6 months. So, you know, it's coming.
So let me open it up. If the person who answered this, asked this question felt that they received a response?
It was me.
Okay.
I asked the question. So
Did he cover the areas you wanted to hear about?
is there, do you have funding to do?
Let me play
Any-
the talk show host so everybody can hear. I'll hold the mic for you. Like a good talk show host.
Is there any funding that would allow you to do those improvements in the 2014 budget?
Oh yeah, it's all going to be done, and it's not a lot of money to get this stuff done. No. I mean, it shouldn't be. They have money in the budget to within the Rosa Parks to make those kind of improvements. And we're also looking at possible tenants in there. You know, like I don't want to put any brand name, like a donut shop type or whatever. Most transit centers around the country have some type of food court, for lack of a better word. And that's something we hope to do. And we'll draw some revenue from that and put it right back into Rosa Parks.
So let me make sure I heard you correctly. From this day forward, we can expect to have Rosa Parks Transit Center open when DDOT buses are operating?
It already is.
Okay, because I'm hearing reports, and I don't know, I don't have dates, times, that just randomly Rosa Parks will be closed without any notice, no signage or anything like that.
I'll give you Ansel's phone number. He needs to hear that. You can call me, but you can call Ansel. He's even better.
Or I'll have people call directly. I'd rather have empower people to make their complaints directly. This young lady also has a question about Rosa Parks.
I agree.
I have a question about the ADA button. When are you expect to have it fixed?
I wasn't aware of the problem, Marguerite, but it's on my list. I'll get it taken care of.
Yes.
Did everybody hear the question, the ADA button at Rosa Parks? Okay, and I'm sure you know there was some problem with the ADA door even at the headquarters. So, you know, I hear lots of things, but when people have complaints, I'll first direct the question to Dan, but I'll ask all the providers, what is the best way of reporting them and what is the complaint handling procedure? Because as a representative of TRU, they tell me, and I say either go online or call customer service, and they'll, you know, send an email. And they said, I've done that several times, and I'm not just talking about DDOT, I'm talking about some of the other providers too, mostly in Metro Detroit. So I'll open it up to Dan to talk about how to be effective in making complaints and making sure they're resolved, and open it up to anyone else who wants to respond to that.
The more specific information you have, the better we are. Bus numbers, time of day, direction, whatever. Calling into customer service is the best way of doing it. Unfortunately, we have a number of customers that will call, for example, with a route driver, and we'll ask them for those specific information, and we will tell them, we'll take appropriate action. Well, people want to know what appropriate action is. We cannot tell them. And I'm going to tell you, one thing, there's a number of things that are more difficult than when I worked at Smart, but one of the things that's a lot easier at DDOT is drivers that aren't doing what they're supposed to, and being able to use customer complaints in the discipline process. It's much easier. So I always encourage people, first of all, to complain. But let me tell you about the main headquarters. Not only that, but there's not an accessible ADA restroom that's coming in very shortly at headquarters. The new ADA coordinator took a little walk through and made sure that was going to happen, as well as in the front entrance where people get off. We're putting a ramp in that area also. So
That is great news. Ernest, would you want to add about complaints and how to be effective in both making them and getting them resolved?
Yeah, to mirror what Dan said, is, if you have a complaint about the people mover, one of our stations or trains.
I can hear you.
I'm sorry, can you, better? Okay. If you have a complaint about one of our facilities or a vehicle, the phone number is 224-2160. And also we have a Facebook page, you can leave it there. And it's also on our website, thepeoplemover.com. And we attend to those very quickly. We're not a huge group, but it gets to my desk really fast. And then sometimes I even make the call back. If it's something technical that needs to be explained, I've actually called complainants back and told them exactly what the problem was and give them a best date if we want to get it corrected.
Anyone else would want to talk about handling complaints?
Yeah, I don't think we've had any yet, but I think once we start construction, we'll have a full flood of them. And so we have a 1-800 number, which now goes to somewhere else. And soon that will go directly into our office. So between 9 and 8:30 and 5:30 or whatever, when we are physically in the office, the calls will come directly to us. When we're not there, then they go into wherever outer space, and we get emailed thing. Then you click on it. Anyway, so yeah, the 1-800 number, and I think they're in the brochures on the table.
I think what we want to do is we look at it from the total transit experience and what other way is convenient for the rider to call in, whether it's through social media, through phone, through the website. We take that information seriously, we get on it very quickly, and we get back and obviously need to investigate to determine the issue. But I would invite folks to use a variety of different methods that we have, but we definitely want to respond and get back to you. So other than the other avenues I talked about, or you can call me, but we definitely take it seriously, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, can you hear me? There we go. At Smart, we did have a lot of difficulties disciplining drivers because of our unions and the fact that it's the passenger's word against the driver, and you had to have witnesses and so forth. But now with the cameras being installed, that's not even a factor. When we get a complaint, we pull that video up, we look at it, and we take disciplinary action right away. So the process has gotten better. You can go via web page, you can call in, you can write complaints. We try to follow up, but like I said, I think we're going to have a much stronger follow-up on complaints now that the numbers are dropping. So.
Thank you. I need to ask your permission. We are over time. I think we're having a good discussion. I would like to continue, but I understand if people need to leave, but unless someone says, Ruth, give it up, just stop it, I will continue. And probably you could scream a little louder, and I probably will pretend not to hear you the first 2 times. So, got a question here from Cindy, and then I have some additional questions for Dan and a couple questions for Tim.
Are the transit police gonna have guns?
Can't hear you.
And, well, I had a question. Could you repeat it? Are the transit police, are they gonna wear guns?
I believe they will, yes. Yeah, they will be just like regular police, except they will not be able to give traffic citations.
Could you try some of it maybe without guns and see how it works? Because I'd like to see us move toward a police force that just treats people with respect and their constitutional
One of the
rights
reasons-
and because they're models for the community.
Sure. One of the reasons that these police officers are going to be transit police and not report to the Detroit Police Department is because of that. They are receiving much more training in terms of how to diffuse situations, and they're going to be more what I would consider counselors than police. That's the whole emphasis on them, so that they help avoid situations long before they become situations.
So what kind of people, are you gonna hire ex-policemen or?
No, well, a lot of them some are ex-police, but some are folks with master's degrees in police administration. Oh yeah, they will have.
Maybe you could try some of each.
Pardon? I'm sorry.
If some of the new people are willing to go without a gun, why don't you try it without a gun and at least some of them, so you can see the difference in what happens.
Cindy, this sounds like it'd be a great opportunity for you and Dan to talk after the meeting. We will have some time after the meeting to have these great conversations. But I got another question for you, Dan.
Sure.
I forgot to mention, I do have copies of the RTA Providers Advisory Council's Performance Indicator Report. It's just a 2-pager. It was part of the report that the RTA did to the legislature that Megan mentioned. And one of our guests here wants to know when DDOT's going to get to the standard of 90% on-time performance and 100% pullouts.
When we get to 227 buses pull out, that's when we're going to get there. And to be honest with you, it's going to take time. I mean, we have buses that haven't been maintained, quite honestly, for a long time. And when you have a car and you don't do an oil change for 60, 70,000 miles, and then you start maintaining it, what is it going to run? It's not going to run very well. That's some of the issues that we have. We're hoping to get 50 new buses by September, and we're going to start our rehab on our 100 bus plus starting in August. I don't want to give a date because actually the numbers that we're getting now are better than I thought we were going to get. And we're hopefully going to keep inching up. But I really am not comfortable. But I would guess that if we got the 100 buses, 150 buses, whenever we get those in place, we should make pull-out no problem.
But then it sounds like if you don't get the 150 buses, it'll be very difficult to get to that pull-out standard.
Absolutely. It's going to be.
Okay.
No question.
So maybe just for a few people in the audience, maybe 1 or 2 who may not know what pullouts mean. You mentioned the 195 and different things. Could you just, or anyone else,
Sure.
just describe what a pullout is?
Pullout is the number of buses you need to meet the peak demands. But I want to tell you, this is very similar to the situation that when I was general manager at SMART. For those of you that were around in the late 90s, you might remember the old buses that SMART had. They were old and they weren't running. I lost 2 suits because there were times where I was putting water in radiators at the ends of the routes back over at the old Renaissance Center. And it wasn't until SMART got the new buses, started the new buses in the year 2000, that we were able to stabilize and make pull-out. And then by the year 2001, when we got the second set, we were able to make, our on-time performance almost all the time. But you can't, if you have an old fleet that hasn't been maintained, you can't just automatically start doing PMs on time and expect them to operate well. It's just not gonna happen. And I'm not gonna lie and say it's going to happen. That's why it's critical that we get the new buses and we renovate some of our better older buses and get them on the road as soon as we can. If we can, that's 150 of the 227 right there. So I think we will, we should do it, no problem.
Do it.
But I'm really not comfortable giving you a date because I don't know exactly when that RFP is gonna hit the street. Normally you give 10 buses at a time and they put them in when they're renovating them, they put them in an assembly line. And that's gonna take a while to get those things done.
Okay. Appreciate your honesty, but, and I don't think people are looking for.
Any suggestions on something else? I mean, I'm not being,
No, you're doing the right thing.
I mean, that's,
You're
you
speaking
can,
the truth.
you can
The truth needs to
do,
be spoken.
you can do it right, or you can make quick decisions. And one of the things we looked at is leasing buses, and that's really a good decision. Cost money though. And if we lease buses, then we have to, those 100 we were gonna do, now they go down to about 75. And to me, we're better off, if you're gonna do it, you do it right.
Appreciate all of our guests and their honest responses to some difficult questions. It's good to always talk about the great stuff, but sometimes we gotta talk about the not so great stuff or the unsure stuff or the uncertain stuff, and I'm glad we're having this opportunity to do this. For time's sake, can we take 2 questions from the audience, but I'm gonna direct a question to Tim and hope he can give a fairly succinct answer to a fairly difficult question, maybe difficult. Will the M1 streetcar be compatible with adding a light rail, or I'm going to add, or other rapid transit on Woodward? And if not, what is the alternative? So talking about the expandability of the streetcar line.
Well, let me take it from the other, expandability of the streetcar line. We're not contemplating expanding the line above our termination point. So that's that. In terms of interaction with, a BRT or a light rail system, I think it's theoretically possible. We have difficulties with shared stations, at least as I understand it, with, say, for example, a BRT. Our curb height is a different curb height than the BRT. We're doing level boarding, and our platforms are a different length than the BRT platforms. And I don't know about a light rail, but I would assume that it might be similar. I don't know about the light rail. So those are challenges where that can they be overcome, in all likelihood, perhaps. Will they be? I don't know. And we're not planning for that. That said, we want to make sure that any future BRT that's going down Woodward, that we can coordinate it as best as possible. On the Amsterdam stop, which is not identified well there, but it is the Amtrak station stop. That I know that station will be longer. There's a height issue that we have to figure out.
Thank you, Tim. It sounds like there's, again, some unanswered questions, but this is opportunities for advocates to push for that type of connectivity and expandability with whether it's M1 or anything else that we're planning on some of the other corridors. I don't know if that's a sign, but well, we're going to use a mic for those people who may need to have the amplification.
I usually do. I just wanted to comment to Mr. Fetzer's blaming the disciplinary problems on the union. The problem I just wanted to say is generally a contract between the union and management to which management has agreed. It sounds like with the cameras you may be solving the problem, but I take strong issue with blaming something on the union.
So is there a question, or you just want to make a comment? I'll take a question at this point.
Let me respond to that very quick. That was not a comment, I said because of the union contract. It wasn't meant to be in any shape or form derogatory towards the union, but it is a contractual issue where we can't take discipline unless we prove it. So you're correct.
You agreed to the contract, though.
Well, I didn't personally, but I
We're going to go to
inherited
the next question,
So it's
and then
not
we're
in
going
your
to close
power.
it. And again,
I can tell you the history if you want to.
well, hold on. I'm sure there's history, there's more discussion, but right now,
Stick to
we're
the
going to
note.
get this gentleman, he will have the last question, and then I'll turn it back over to Megan, or I'll do the closing remarks, and then we can have lots of lively conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to first of all say thank you to the panelists. I'm very encouraged to see all of you here. It's sorely needed, and it's very nice, and I hope that you guys would accept a future invitation to have this occur again in the future. My question is millennials, and I'd like each of you to comment as to how you're recruiting millennials to ride public transit. Thank you.
They like bicycles.
Okay, that is, that was when I worked in Grand Rapids, that was our target audience. And here, the last 4, 5, 6 years, we've been focusing on survival. But millennials are critical. We've been trying to get that interjection of thinking into our staff and into our planning by going out to the counties and meeting with their planning departments and their younger staff that have ideas about what they want, how they want a city to look, how they want it to feel, where they want to live. The Royal Oaks, those kind of places. But we're trying to just basically gather more input. But I'd like to see a lot more of that involvement. I think there's a real potential, especially in the city of Detroit, for millennials shaping the system and making it a better city. Dan, do you want to?
No, let's put Michael on that. I'll be last this time.
Okay. Quite frankly, I think this 5-year millage is a start to that. We've been out talking to folks, wanting to know what they need. We want to be flexible, nimble, able to meet the needs of folks. People will leave if there's not good transportation. One of the slides we had up there talked about millennials and the need to have good transportation to keep them there. People are working different hours now. They're not always working these traditional hours of service, so you have to be flexible with your service, and you have to speak to their needs. So outreach, listening, being nimble, being responsive to the public, and I think this 5-year transit plan and beyond that we'll start getting at that. A lot of this input was directly from that group, and we feel that this will start satisfying some of that. Obviously, there's a lot more to do. Real-time information, improvements on the total transit experience is critical to that. So I think we're starting in that direction, and obviously our ridership still continues to prove that.
Yeah, we have not begun our marketing plan. That is a couple of weeks away yet, but it'll be a similar thing. We think that the streetcar appeals to millennials, technology, and connecting to the other system. We'd like to have boards that say that, probably not the people mover because of the headways, but the next smart bus, number whatever is coming in however many minutes, same with DDOT, that sort of stuff.
One of the things that we've done for not only the millennials, but some of the more senior folk that are very active, we've incorporated bike racks. We've relaxed hours, we'll change hours at the drop of a hat. We've changed hours for churches. We've changed hours, and this is outside of events. With the YMCA coming online, we started opening earlier for the people that want to get that early morning workout in. Outside of some of the events that we do, I was joking about the pub crawls and staying open on New Year's Eve, St. Patty's Day. And it drives, as a maintenance manager, drives me literally crazy, but we gotta provide the service for the people. So we become very flexible in what we do, and as the climate downtown changes and our core passenger change, we try to adapt with you. We got people working later, we got with the people coming in over at CompuWare and all of the Rock Financial people. So we've looked at that and said, well, we gotta run a little later. I got a story about a lady, she works over at Joe Louis, and I was doing some testing, and she said, I gotta get over to Rosa Parks. Are you guys gonna close late tonight? I said, no, we're running a little, it's playoff time. We're running a little later tonight for the Red Wings. She was like, great, because I wanna catch my bus, it leaves at a certain time. So we really try to be flexible to our passengers, that as their needs change, we wanna be flexible enough to change with you. That's it.
Well, I agree with all these gentlemen, the technology, everything, but, my daughter lives in DC, and I go there quite often, and she's just a little bit older than a millennium, but not much, and I ask her all the time, because she doesn't have a car, what's the most important thing? We need buses that run frequently, we need them to run on time, and we need to know that they're gonna run late enough and early enough when I need it. See, that's the core of our business, and it always should be. The technology is all great, but if you don't, that's what we're experiencing at DDOT. When you're only making 2/3 of your pullout, and your buses don't run a schedule, it's awful. But once you start running the kind of service that you should, that will attract millenniums, baby boomers, and everyone in between. And that's the core of what we need to do. The technology is absolutely wonderful. In particular, if you can look at your smartphone and identify when the next bus is coming, you don't mind your bus being a few minutes late because you know you can get that. And I think that's the one thing that I'm really pressing on at DDOT. Even if our service isn't on time, if we can put some technology in place. And we have Text My Bus, but Text My Bus works about half the time. I did some trips about a week ago, and it gave the scheduled time. It didn't do the real time, and that's crazy. So, getting the buses out there, having them run on time at the hours that people need it, and giving them just a little bit of information is going to attract millenniums and everyone in between.
I believe that good transit is good for everybody, regardless of your age or whether you're working or going to school. And so I think it's very important that I heard a lot of encouraging things. I heard honesty about what can be done now, what can be done in the future. I've heard agencies talking about what they're doing by themselves, but what they're doing with working with one another, whether it's a regular meeting with another transit provider or going through the advisory council, the RTA advisory council. But I also think that we have a part to play. They're doing their part, but there's a part we should play. I know there's some more questions, but we're getting really way past the time that we said. So I'm going to do some closing remarks and just tell you some things in terms of getting involved and supporting TRU. Again, your voice is important. Your hard work is important. We thank you for what you've done, but we still have some more work to do. So there's some different project teams you can get involved with, and Megan has told you about our wonderful opportunity to both celebrate all the great things happening with public transit in our region, as well as supporting our work that we do here at TRU. But then, this is the challenge. I really feel it's important. These gentlemen and their colleagues are doing a lot of hard work.